Hello, 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 everyone. How are you? Thank you for joining us today in this conversation. For those of you who don't know me, I am Melissa. I am an event host at Power to Fly. I am from Buenos Aires, Argentina. I am now based in Buenos Aires, Argentina. I would love to know where are you at now, if you want to tell us through chat. So today we have two wonderful speakers. So I want to introduce them as soon as possible. Sorry. So I will go quickly through some guidelines for today's conversation. First of all, if you've already joined one of these chats before, you probably know that this is supposed to be a conversation. So we really want you to participate, to get involved, to comment, to send questions. So please use our chat box to do so. You can also turn your cameras on so we can see your faces. It doesn't have to be perfect. No one needs to be dressed up. Second, we are recording this session, so you will receive an email 2 to 3 days from today with a link for you to rewatch the conversation. So there's no need for you to be taking down notes. Just relax, enjoy, participate. Also, if you would like to send a comment but remain anonymous, you can do it by choosing my name from the drop-down menu in the chat box. You can send the message privately to me and I will read it out loud. I think that's all. You can also please follow us on our social media. And that being said, I'm gonna introduce our two wonderful speakers for today's conversation. First, we have Rachel. Rachel's early professional experience was at Goldman Sachs in operations and at Bridgewater Associates in HR. From there, she was trained as a coach at NYU and became a certified coach through the International Coach Federation. She worked in HR research at A.M. Hewitt and attained her technology MBA at NYU Stern. Throughout her career, Rachel has helped hundreds of professionals with career exploration. And for the past 4.5 years, she has been building her company, WOKEN, which is an online career exploration platform to coach professionals through the process of clarifying their ideal job and career path. And we also have Lucie with us today. Lucie is a certified NLP practitioner and CEO of Templa, the interactive vision board app. Her passion for helping people see beyond their limitations through self-inquiry and visualization tools encourages her clients to trust their intuition and forge their own unique path to success. Lucie is an advocate for adventure, self-care, and inner child work. Before we go on, I would like Rachel and Lucie to tell us why are you here with us and what are you going to share with us in this conversation?
Yeah, Lucie, you want to get started?
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be on this call. And yeah, my passion is to help to share the knowledge and tools that have helped me along my journey. And I am a living, breathing example of how visualization works, having changed careers at the age of 35 from being a private chef to now a tech entrepreneur. And visualization has been the driving force behind that shift. So yeah, it's really helped me, and I just want to share how it's helped and hopefully help you guys too.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think it's awesome that Lucie used it to get where you are today. And I think both of us are also examples of, you know, with what we built, right? So I help clients from a career perspective to use visual tools to help them progress forward. So both of us are going to show real live tools and examples of how to use these tools to actually get where you want to go. And that's the key, is just to make this simple. I think sometimes visualization sounds like fluffy, and I think we just want to make it really real today and practical around what it is, how to use it, and how you can see really, there's immediate benefits, and of course there's long-term benefits, but just making it real. I think sometimes this concept and topic just can feel very light and fluffy, but it can also be really impactful for, doing the work, right? And getting where you want to go. So that's what we want to do, is kind of bring it back down to earth today. That's kind of my take on today's topic.
Thank you very much, Lucie and Rachel. I'm eager to learn. I'm sure everyone is here. So these are our main takeaways for today. And we've received all of the questions you sent before the event. We've gathered all of them. We've organized them in what we feel is a nice flow to keep things conversational. So without further ado, let's begin.
Cool.
Rachel, Lucie.
Share my screen quickly. And you guys can see this all, correct? All right, beautiful. Okay, Lucie, feel free to take it away and I'll click through.
Okay, so we're going to start off with the main big question. What is visualization? And so visualization has been used by athletes, entrepreneurs, artists, and inventors since the beginning of time. It really draws back to what happens in here to then be propositioned outside of ourselves in any shape or form. But it's basically utilizing what's happening in your imagination and expressing it in some shape or form. It's been proven by neuroscience that you're 10 times more successful when you set goals, and by using visualization in that incorporation, you're 23% faster at acquiring them. So if we go to the next slide.
Hold on, there we go.
There we go. So it's different for everyone. And I really want to stress this. If you haven't used visualization before, it's so many different things. And it is, any one thing might work for one person and another person might use a different set of modalities. And it's a conceptual process. So it's as far as your imagination will take you. So visualization can be in the form of, let's go to the next one.
Oh, sorry. Is it not showing the next slide?
What it is not. Yeah, we'll go to what it's not.
Okay.
And so as it is many things, it's not a one size fits all. What might work for one person won't work for others. And you might get into one of these modalities by journaling every day, or by doing sitting down meditations, through guided visualizations, but like recorded online. And you might get really into something for a short space of time for a specific event or for a specific goal, but then that might run its course and you might not want to use that specific modality for a while. So it really is a very, it's something that can work for a short time. So I visualize, I visualize and it manifests into existence immediately. That's not going to happen, thank goodness. So please don't put all your emphasis and energy into one particular thing, because it's very it's very particular. Rachel, can I hand over to you?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think to your point, manifesting into existence immediately, that's the woo-woo fluffy part. So I think, your point here about the fact that it's not standalone is just so important, right? Using visualization in conjunction with these other strategies, whether it's mentorship and coaching or even therapy and discussion based. I mean, there's so many other things you're going to be doing, but it's sort of that first driver where you can clarify the vision and the goals in conjunction with your other efforts, that's going to continue to push you forward, which is great. So yeah, I think what I love the most about visualization is that it can be so simple. There's a lot of ideas here, but the ones that I kind of love the most is like with the left side here, journaling, mind mapping, a brain dump, using visual apps, documentation, and drawing. Like, I'm a big fan of this left side, and I'm going to go to the right side, but documentation, it sounds so simple, but I'm going to tell you 2 quick examples. I had 2 clients literally in the past week or 2, and they were sort of brainstorming ideas for businesses. 2 totally separate examples, just so happened to be 2 potential entrepreneurs, but most of my clients are actually, you know, working in 9-to-5 jobs. And so they had so much floating around and hadn't yet just written it down. So I sort of said, let's take pen to paper, right? And that could be a brain dump. And then after that brain dump, you can actually just start organizing it a bit, right? So imagine this is your first day starting your idea for a business. What's the mission? What's the vision? What's the product? Who's the market? Well, how are you different? All of a sudden, your progress is going to flow, to speak of what Lucie was saying, faster. Because when it's just in your head, it's floating around. But the minute it's in front of your eyes, what more can come, right? That's the beauty and the simplicity to it. You know, mindfulness, vision boards, meditation, positive programming, mind-body connection. There's so many ways that, you know, you can express visualization. Yeah, Lucie, anything to add on this slide?
Yeah, I just was going to say visualization is it's a word that I guess connotates to so many different things. And so finding your own groove of what that means to you is what's going to empower you. So it could be, you know, you might take a handful of these suggestions around on this diagram and try them on. And like for me personally, I have 3 types of journals. I have my manifestation journal, I have my day-to-day journal, and then I have just what's on my heart. And so that might sound like crazy to some of you, but like by compartmentalizing these different streams of consciousness, I'm able to express myself in different ways and regularly without things getting messed up. And so I have these journals, which are my manifestation journals, and they are like, my mind just like kind of really goes to town on like how amazing what I want things to happen. Like, and I look back on them like 6 months or a year later, and I'm like astounded, because I'm like, I literally just wrote the script for the next like chapter of my life. And I didn't know that at the time, but by just allowing your mind to verbalize and to conceptualize ideas that you might want to bring into fruition and manifest or create, it just gives space to do so. And we have to remember, anyone that's feeling skeptical, is everything starts with an idea. Einstein came up with all his theories with just this little like a few brain waves going, yes, that makes sense, like I've got to write it down. And we just have to remember that everything, like a jumbo jet to the you know, Eiffel Tower or anything, came up with a spark and an idea. And I think that that's where we tend to forget how these things work. And it's just about verbalizing and getting things out, and self-expression at the end of the day.
I love that so much. And thank you for sharing your personal process. I love that. I like the different, 3 types of journals. I'm seeing it in the chat. I love that so much. Because, you know, we have different moments, we have different modes, modalities, and we have different ways of thinking, like the heart, the mind. I mean, I really like that. And in an ideal world, all of this would start to align, but the ability to acknowledge the difference between how you feel when you're thinking with the heart or the mind, like I think that's actually important, because what if your head's saying one thing and your heart's saying another? Like, you can perhaps see more clearly when you have those different journals. So I think that's interesting to notice perhaps where there's misalignment, and thus the opportunity to strengthen, how do I get everything towards that one aligned goal and path? And, you know, it sort of shows you those opportunity moments. I think that's really cool. Okay, so Lucie's going to guide us through a cool visualization for, I think, just 2 minutes. And then we still have a bunch more slides. I want our slides to give you tips as much as possible. And then we're going to do a bunch of Q&A for the latter half of the conversation. So let's do this exercise, and then Melissa, we can come back to the chat.
Okay, yeah, I just want to do this short exercise, and we'll take questions afterwards. So I want, if you're comfortable closing your eyes or just taking some deep breaths or just lowering your gaze, we're just gonna, take some deep breaths, sit comfortably, slow down your breathing. And when you're ready, continue to breathe deeply and slowly, and take in one long deep breath. Now I would like you to imagine that you're standing in your kitchen or the kitchen of someone you know. Choose a kitchen that you're very familiar with, that is associated with pleasurable memories. Imagine that you're standing at the doorway to this kitchen and glance around it, noting the walls, the cabinets, the countertops, the floor. Imagine the appliances that are in this kitchen. The refrigerator, the stove, oven. Look at the countertops, noticing things that are placed there. Over the kitchen sink, there may be a window. Imagine that the window is open and a soft, warm breeze is blowing in, perhaps gently moving the curtains. There are pleasant smells in this kitchen, perhaps cooking or baking smells linger in the air. It is a warm and inviting place. Now bring your gaze to the counter and notice that there is a wooden cutting board there. On top of the board sits a bright yellow lemon. You notice its color, a vibrant yellow, its size and shape. You reach out and pick up the lemon, noticing how it feels to your touch. The skin is smooth and slightly bumpy, and you may see the end where it was attached to the tree. Next to the cutting board, you see a sharp kitchen knife. Return the lemon back to the cutting board and carefully pick up the knife with your dominant hand. Holding the lemon steady with your other hand, cut the lemon in half. As you do this, you're feeling the knife slicing through the fruit, and it falls open to revealing beautiful jewel-like pulp in neat rows. You see fresh white pulp and perhaps some seeds inside. Drops of lemon juice has spilled onto the cutting board. Now take 1/2 of the lemon and cut it again, making a quarter-size slice. Put the knife down carefully and bring the lemon quarter up to your nose. You're aware of the sharp, fresh citrus scent filling up your nose. Touch the lemon to your lips, noticing the sensations. Now open your mouth and bite into the lemon. And come back. I'd just be curious to see if anything came up during that meditation, any sensations, any thoughts. It's just an interesting exercise to show and I illustrate the mind-body connection of just how powerful our minds are, and bringing back how quickly we can create a physiological effect within us. So yeah, be interesting to see in the notes.
Awesome. Yeah, I want to see what
people are saying that they smelled the lemon. Emily's mouth was watering. They felt the scent. Someone says, I was restless to cut the lemon and wondering why we aren't to that part yet. My mouth watered. It was really powerful. I also felt, I smelled the lemon and I felt I was in that kitchen. It was my grandmother's kitchen. I felt I was there. It was wonderful. Someone also says, I felt like I was there in the kitchen and Dawson smelled cinnamon pie baking in the oven.
Ooh, I want to stick in that kitchen.
Yeah, me too.
Also, not to mention, I mean, it's relaxing. Like, I feel like, you know, meditative, felt calm and safe next to my grandmother in the kitchen, could feel the lemon. Yeah, like, that's the thing. It's like the power of the ability to see things, but also feeling calm and safe. Like, sometimes just bringing you a moment of coming back to what you can control, your mind, and sort of reorienting your mind towards something really positive. There's so many benefits to that. Like, that was just a mini little meditation. And I always say, even in a 2-minute meditation, it just feels like 10 minutes. Like, it feels like we just took such an amazing break and off. I mean, just, that's a whole other topic, but the ability to take moments for this and the benefits you get beyond just the immediate, oh, let's visualize, right? But what else is it doing just to how you feel in that moment, and the ability to take those breaks? Smelled the lemon in my mouth watering. Awesome. Lucie, ready to forge forward?
Yeah,
here?
go to the next slide.
Cool.
And I just want to like reiterate like how powerful our minds are. And so visualization is a tool that helps you use your imagination consciously. And so if it would be interesting to show our hands who's gets affected by anxiety. Me, I am a huge unfortunately anxious person, and visualization has helped me maintain my anxiety, because if you think about it, anxiety is your monkey mind going to the worst case scenario before things have even happened. So you're visualizing, if you're human and you jump to worst case scenario, sometimes you're actually unconsciously visualizing, and that's in essence what it is. So visualization, when you use it consciously, is creating positive outcomes of what could happen to benefit you. And I really feel like it's just a muscle that we have to flex, because we're built in with negative bias for our survival, and so it takes effort to really exercise this and switch that negative bias, so that we're feeling the positive effects, and we're basically recreating our own story that's not inhibited by our negativity or any unconscious programming.
I think that's so huge. Like, to be honest, I didn't even sort of recognize all of that, but it makes so much sense when you say it. So this is that reorientation, the conscious ability to take control. But yeah, that anxiousness, it is visualization. So I think that's such an amazing, differentiation that you made there. Let's keep going.
So I just wanted to speak to this, because I saw this and repeated a few times in the questions, and I think that there's a lot of misconceptions of what's like the do's and don'ts and what's right and wrong with visualization. And so what I would suggest is, like, keep it consistent. It's a practice. Like I said, it's like something that you have to regularly do to get results from, and to be curious and flexible. There is not one size fits all, like we said before. There's many shapes and forms, and do what's right for you. Journal and keep a record of your daily thoughts, because they're changing constantly. And so another cool exercise, if you have a really important decision and you're stuck between one or the other, a different pathway, what I would do is, for 10 days straight, journal on that decision. And then you basically have 10 days worth of your rational mind deciding how you felt on the day. And then you can take a really in-depth and more impartial viewpoint on what that decision might be, because we all know that you change, even if you haven't had breakfast, your decisions are going to change. So if you are faced with something that's super important, having a journal and keeping record of your daily thoughts is going to help you in the long run, so that you can use that as a tool for reflection. Find what works for you. Like we said on earlier slide, there's so many different shapes and forms. So, like, just be curious, try them all out. and yeah, be open to changing up, and remember it's meant to be fun. If you're feeling like you're struggling, then it's no bueno. And the don'ts, I think that this is a misconception where people tend to think, oh, I've journaled and I've visualized XYZ, but it hasn't happened yet, and I'm going to give up. And that's unfortunate because, you know, things take time to build. Like right now, I'm building my company, and I've just consistently had this visualization. And even though things are taking longer than I would like them to, because in a perfect world, we want things done like this, you just have to keep like that as your anchor to your long-term goal, and just think of it like that. Just think that even though it hasn't happened yet, you know what you want, and you're not going to stop and give up on it. So don't expect miracles after trying it a few times. Just be consistent and show up every day, and you'll get results eventually. Like I said, it's like going to the gym. And don't judge what comes up for you. In journaling practice, especially, you know, sometimes it's actually like really scary to write down your thoughts on paper. Like you might have, you know, fears around other people reading it. You might just, you know, not, you know, have fears around like your inner critic, kind of like that's not written right. Just allow it to flow and have an impartial, non-judgmental reasosoning. And just, even if you do have judgment around it, maybe journal on that. Say, why am I so judgmental on myself? And that's a really good also way to heal that unconscious belief as well. And yeah, just don't give up, keep going. This is all for your benefit. It's just really about strengthening that relationship with yourself. And we're not really taught that in society, or in our educational systems. We're not really equipped with these tools, and so they're quite new for most of us. And I think it's just another way to really get in touch with who we are and what makes us tick, and that can't be a bad thing.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to call out too is like, I think there's a tendency to think about this as like the future, like visualizing the future, but it's also important to recognize that it's okay to use visualization for the now, and like meeting yourself where you are, right? And we actually have another slide kind of about this, but in order to like, it's good to visualize that future state, but I'm not going to say more important, but just as important to say, here's where I stand. So around the non-judgmental, like, even though it might be scary to document like how you feel, and maybe there's fears and any number of kind of maybe scary emotions involved, the ability to just even document how you're feeling, even if it feels chaotic or stressful or fearful, that's that first step towards, you know, alleviating that. So visualizing the future, but also allow yourself to say, here's where I stand, right? Here's how I feel today. Like, all of that is welcome and important and productive. So it is a combination of current and future. I think sometimes like there's so much power in thinking about the future visualization to like anchor want to go. But I think sometimes the fear comes from like, but am I ever going to get there? So it's not just future. Like, we don't want you to feel stalled by that. It's okay to say, here's where I'm at, and here's where I want to go. And then it makes it a little easier to say, what are those sub steps in between, versus just thinking about this future that might feel far away, right? So it's okay to think about the now and that future, right?
Before we move on, sorry, Lucie, someone asked in the chat something that I think is interesting for you to address. When we are documenting our feelings, well, someone said we get many thoughts all the time. So what thoughts should you write in your journal? How can you choose from everything you think and come through your mind? How can you choose what to write down?
Well, I mean, that's up to you. You might want to have like a morning journal practice or an evening journal practice, and then see what the difference is between morning and evening. Or just a timed practice would be beneficial as well. So just put a timer on for 5 minutes a day and see what comes out. I think we mentioned it in another slide later down the track, but there's a lovely practice called morning pages, whereby you wake up, and as soon as you wake up, you journal for 3 whole pages. And that's just a way to like brain dump your stream of consciousness. So then you're just basically getting the clutter out, so then you can actually consciously create. So I would say if you've got too many thoughts, that's perfect time to go for it on the page and just like write down until you can't write anymore, and then see what happens. And if you just really push yourself and just you don't have anything to write after, it will be a really good exercise just to see how clear your mind feels afterwards.
The other thing is, if you have a journal that's like kind of what we were saying with that stream of consciousness, I think starting to notice throughout the day, like asking yourself, like, what should be written down? Meaning, when you have those thoughts, there's so many, and there could be silly things about whatever, going to the grocery store, or like, you know, reflecting on a past conversation or reflecting on an upcoming thing. Notice which are those thoughts that like you either want to come back to, that is teaching you about how you feel, that is teaching about something you want to do. You know, those are those thoughts that like they might pop up in the moment, but they something you want to take forward, or learn about, or think about, or reflect on. That, like, if you're doing the stream of consciousness, I would just try to separate between like the running thoughts that are about just the day to day. I would call those like below the line. You don't necessarily need to jot those down, versus like you're learning something about yourself or how you feel, or, you know, that I would try to find that line. But I think, like Lucie's saying, it takes practice, right? So say you're doing that stream of consciousness, or the journal for the thoughts throughout the day, start practicing. And I think you'll start to find that line of like, you'll start to notice like, oh, that's one of those that I'm going to document for later, versus like, you know, 90% maybe of those thoughts are kind of like just things that can happen, but perhaps maybe 10% are like, that's something I'm going to jot down for later because it's meaningful in some way, shape, or form to come back to, right? That's kind of how I might start to think about it. Cool. I'm seeing a bunch of things in the chat. Morning pages, love that. Awesome. Cool. Beautiful. Love that. All right. So, Lucie, you want to pick it up where we left off?
So I was just thinking and reflecting on how visualization in particular can boost your career options. And so for, I've done this for myself as well. So for mental rehearsal is super important before an interview, before a pitch, before something that's incredibly, you know, high stakes. It's great to prepare. So what I do is I visualize, I go through the motion in my head. So I take 5 minutes before this event, close my eyes, and I just imagine, you know, like the run of course of how that will go, and obviously with a positive outcome. And then identification, this would be more of a journaling practice, clarifying your goal, super important. What do you want from a job? What do you want to feel when you have this ideal job? What will it give you? You know, where do you want to work? Who do you want to work with? Go into the minute details, because it's almost like, you know, online dating or like looking for your new home. You have to really be in the details. You can't just like go, I want to move into an apartment. You have to tell the realtor, well, what kind of apartment do you want? Like 1 bedroom? Is it a townhouse? How many bedrooms does it have? Like, be super specific and get identify what are the credentials that you're looking for. And then this is a fun one, embodiment. Preach it till you reach it. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the TED Talk with the lady that has shown that the cortisol levels raise when you do a power pose, which is standing with your arms out, almost like a superhero pose. And it's actually shown to change your physiology, I can't say that word, and actually give you that confidence and boost that you need. And so it's really interesting how just like slight little changes, and like as we demonstrated during that visualization with the lemon, your body actually changes inside when you engage with these certain exercises. So don't underestimate how powerful your imagination is and how you can actually utilize it for your advantage in these practices when searching for a job.
Yeah, and I love the preach it till you reach it. Like, you know, sometimes where possible, I tell people like, start doing the job that you want to be doing. Like, whether that's in a self-driven project, a side gig, volunteering pro bono, or even just learning and skill development, sometimes we don't realize how we could be creative to actually just like start doing the work on our own before somebody hires us to do that, showcasing your ability to do that type of work in a different setting or a different avenue. So the preaching it, the embodiment, actually starting to practice and do the skills that you want to be hired to do. Sometimes we just get so closed off, like I need to be hired to do it, versus I love what this does is it allows you to really be open-minded and creative about like, what are the things I haven't thought of yet that I can actually start doing now that gets me closer, that allows me to embody in reality. It's not just like the mindset, but actually doing some of those projects and actually putting it in place. So I love the embodiment piece. I mean, I love all of this. But yeah, this is awesome. Let's keep going.
Okay, so for any of the analytical thinkers who are still on the fence about this, I just want to go into the science part of it, because this is backed by neuroscience. It's we've had so many interesting online research on how visualization actually improves performance and changes us. And so there was a really interesting study from Harvard in 1995 about two sets of people that were given their piano players, and one set was chosen to actually play the piano and learn the notes, and the other set of players were just given the notes but had to memorize them in their mind. But interestingly enough, they hooked them up to some brain my mind's gone blank. They hooked them up to like show what the brain activity was doing, and they were just equally the same. So your brain doesn't know the difference if it's visualizing or not, and so that's huge. And if we go to the next slide, this is why it does work as well. So our brains are also equipped with a reticular activating system, and this basically acts like a giant filter. And so when we actively engage in visualization, what we're doing is we are onboarding selective attention. So I don't know if you've ever decided to get a new car or something, and you're like, oh, I want to get a red Mini or a red whatever car that you've set your sight on, and all of a sudden you see them everywhere. Every place you drive, you're like, oh my goodness, they're everywhere. But they're not. It's just because now you've decided on something. Your brain is now triggered to be like this little like radar system to be like, oh, there's another one, there's another one, there's another one. And so it's just the same as like how we are positively programming our consciousness by creating that RAS to be activated. And that's why things such as vision boards work really well, and being super going deeper with your identification with your goals, because the more that you go into the details, the more that you're signaling to your brain to give your brain a little to give it extra boost to signal to you when you are seeing that in your normal waking life. And this is a really important law, Hebb's law: thoughts that fire together wire together. And so basically you're creating these neural pathways by enforcing it every day. And that's also like, we have to think about like how detrimental like watching the news is, and like anything that is negative, because they're not like our senses are so heightened and become, then we become more anxious than we need to be. I mean, obviously it's great to know what's going on in the world, but the thing is like our world is so overstimulated as it is, and because we have a negative bias built into us naturally, it becomes accentuated. So to do these exercises to mitigate the natural tendencies of the flight or flight survival mechanism that we have embedded in us, we're actually just leveling things out a little bit, and it's all for our benefit and for our mental health. So yeah, I like to just call visualization as like a GPS system for goal acquisition. So if you think about it like this, you first of all take note of where you are currently. So you have to identify where you are, and name it, speak it, journal it, show who you are and how you're feeling. But then you're also identifying the destination of where you want to go, which is really important, because you can't expect the universe or any other method of transport to take you somewhere or where you want to go unless you have identified it. And then you get to take control of your direction, so you don't get lost. And this is like a lot, like all you need to know is to take the first few steps. And like I was saying to Rachel yesterday, it's almost like, when you're driving to 6 hours away, if you're driving from to New York or something, that the destination is going to be New York, but you don't have to know every single turn that you're going to take from the time that you leave your house. All you need to know is the next steps, and they will just continue to keep evolving as you go. So it's just visualization, and all of these methodologies that we've mentioned are just a great way to monitor and record your milestones, and so that you're living a more effective life and you're just enjoying the journey along the way. Because remember that it's not the destination, it's the journey, and it's about making the journey as enjoyable as possible.
Yeah, and I loved what we were saying yesterday, which was like, you only need to see as far as your headlights on the car, right? So it's like a few steps ahead of you, right? Of course, you kind of generally want to know where you're going, but there's probably different routes to get there. And like the most immediate important thing is like seeing a few steps ahead, right? And Swarna, in the chat, I agree with you. I want to be clear that, especially with careers, I personally don't think visualization, and we've said this, it's not standalone. So this is so important to do, but there are other practical things. We at WOKEN, we have a career assessment. We help with research, with networking, with reflection. There are real world activities to understand what career path options exist and what's a good fit for you, as well as job searching. I mean, there's practical efforts that get done in conjunction with all of this, but how much clearer could things be and faster if we do this in conjunction. So I do want to just reiterate that again. This isn't the miracle, but it's I honestly think this activity makes, especially if we're talking visualizing for careers, it makes it more enjoyable. Because when you just do the practical efforts of the networking, it's like, it can feel sometimes it is effort, right? And so this is the way of like reminding yourself that like, but here's what I want, and here's what it should look like, and here's what it should feel like. And then yes, of course, we've got to get ourselves out there and do all that stuff. But this is the way of bringing it back to you and making sure you're staying in tune with yourself while you do all those other efforts. Because I've got blogs, and we all know scope creep is job search. We start applying to things that don't feel like the right fit, and so many ways to get out of sync with what we really want. And that's just so easy to happen in job search, right? Bringing joy to the journey, that's exactly right. And like, when you just do the job efforts, career efforts without all this, it is work. But this is the way of remembering that it's like the self work. And I think this is the more enjoyable part. But yes, in conjunction, there are other efforts, of course, that will help you get there. But this to me is just such an impetus. And again, there's different ways that visualization can take shape and take form. You can be picturing the future to help you clarify what you want, but it could also be as simple as documenting your thoughts. Like, I love Google Docs. I love Google Sheets. Take pen to paper. Just see what happens. It will move you one step forward. If there's been thoughts swirling around, jot them down. It is half the battle to get you beyond those thoughts and further, with those next steps. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. Lucie, tell us about this quote.
I just love this quote because this just illustrates this so succinctly. It really is about self-belief, and whether or not you think you're going to get your dream job or not, you will or won't. And so I think visualization is just a methodology of identifying exactly what you want and giving you the tool set to go get it. And really, all of these tools are just here to help. Like, it's not a hard and fast rule. And if you believe it, they're not going to work, then of course they're not going to.
And that's okay. You'll find something that does work, right?
And it's about like, it's really just about like I said, cultivating that inner relationship with yourself, because if we are constantly seeking outside of ourselves as well, we are placing that impetus and outside validation before we've even nourished our inward selves as well. And this, like, our relationship to self is the most important relationship you'll ever have in your own life, because it's the only one consistently you'll have forever, ever. So like, I feel like it's just, this is like, yeah, like seeing is believing. This is a really good place to start just on your journey of a relationship with yourself. So I'm just going to give you 5 suggestions of exercises that I thought that would be kind of cool to go through. So we'll go to the next slide. So yeah, so journaling exercises. Write a list of exactly what you want from your ideal career. Try to identify feelings and not things. I've got like I can go deeper with this one, where I create in my journal 3 columns. The first column is like all of the credentials that you'd see on a classified ad. So if we use a job, for example, it would be writer, gets paid X amount, holidays X amount, works for this company. Just something that would like strike you of interest to like go further and deeper and maybe contact the person that was put up the ad. And then go, and then in the next column, write down, if you went to that interview or you learn more about that job, what things would strike your interest even more, that would be like, oh my God, I think that this is for me. And then on the third column, this is where your imagination comes in, and you can get really creative. Write something that would be totally, it would seem like an impossibility if you saw it, or would really give you that nod from the universe that you had ordered this. So it could be seeing, or like, what could it be, like seeing a picture of or like a special plant in the office, or something like that felt really aligned when you got to that. And I like to do this when I'm like working on finding a new home, or like a relationship. Like, you can do this with anything, and it's been really interesting to see what comes up from it.
Love that. Awesome.
And then, yeah, this one's really cool. So write a journal entry 1 year from now, from the perspective of you having achieved all your wildest dreams, a day in the life of future you. So you're working towards something, and let's get clear on that. And how would that make you feel if the version that you're working so hard to get has got everything? What does that look, sense, and feel like? And you can go as detailed as you could. I can write the 3 column in the chat in a second. So yeah, this one's a really great one. And then each morning, this is much the same as the morning pages that we mentioned in the notes. So it's 5 to 10 minutes of all your thoughts onto paper each morning, and no judgment brain dump. This is simply to clear out all of the thoughts, the residual dreams or to-do lists from the day before. Just allow your brain to just like filter everything out, no judgment, just get the pen to paper. And then this basically clears your mind, just as you would like clearing up your bedroom and taking all the clothes off the floor, or making your bed. It's basically like mental hygiene, just to allow this clean space to be just cleared and ready for the next day.
Yeah. And if anyone's into meditation versus writing, I used to do this more than I should keep doing it, but transcendental meditation served this purpose for me. Like, it felt like I was like taking a broom and sweeping the cobwebs in my head, like just cleaning, exactly the bedroom thing, like cleaning it up, and the ability to focus the rest of the day, because you took 20 minutes to like get all those distracting thoughts out of your head, whether it's on paper or whatever. You have a focused time and space to, there's so many distracting thoughts, and that's actually, it's normal, but to have a moment to just literally focus on, okay, what are all those things swirling around? Let me get them organized. And then the rest of the day, like the ability to just be so much more present and focused on what you're doing, because all that stuff in the back of your head is no longer there. Again, it's not like a perfect, bulletproof thing, but it really, this exercise, whether it's writing or meditation, for that same goal and purpose just really can change the rest of your day for sure. Okay, let's see. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, guided visualizations. There's plenty on YouTube. So find your ideal person. There's someone that I follow called is he called Andrew Seeley or Michael Seeley? I can put I'll find it and I'll put in the link below. And he does like meeting your future self visualizations, almost like kind of hip self hypnosis. And they're great. And there's so many free ones on YouTube. You just have to find the right person. And yeah, I can really recommend them if you want to try those out. And vision boards, obviously quite close to my heart. These are an amazing way to visually represent your goals and dreams. And so you can take inspiring images. You can do this on Pinterest, or you can compile them old school onto a board for cutting out paper, and then keep it somewhere close to you so that you're seeing it every day. And this is something that I made up. So this is the embodiment part. And you know, every time if you walk into a room, or especially like if you were in a interview room and you see someone with their head held high, their shoulders back, and they're just assuming the role of like confidence and just feeling really at ease with themselves. So I do this thing where when I go for a run and I'm like struggling, I don't want to make that last mile, and I like say to myself, like, Lucie, like run like, you know, you've got all your goals, and like Templa, my company's doing really well, like would you give up at this moment? And I'm like, hell no. So I start like really giving it some and like giving it my all towards the end, and like it really gives me this boost. And so like sometimes I just literally run around like I'm my future self, and I've got the money in the bank and I'm feeling really confident, and it really just like embodies that sense of self that I'm working towards, and it boosts me, and it's good for my health because I run way longer.
I love what you're saying. I had a coach once who I was saying, like, I feel like, you know, as a CEO, I was like, I feel like a 7 out of 10, or like maybe on that given day. And she was like, what if you just were a 10 out of 10? Like sometimes you just step into it. You know, if you know where the gap is and you know what a 10 out of 10 looks like and feels like, same with the millionaire, you kind of know what it would look and feel like. What if you just sort of like stepped in to that feeling versus feeling like, oh, it's just this struggle, it's going to take me years to embody or realize? What if you just like started showing up that way, you know, versus like sometimes we assume it's this like, you know, it has to be such crazy struggle journey, it's far away, we can't do it, we're not that, versus like, but what if you just showed up that way? You know what I mean? Stepping it. Yeah.
Has anyone seen that movie, Everywhere, Everything, All at Once? I really recommend it. It's where the main character can choose to be the best version of herself so that she can create her own adventure. And yeah, it was a very inspiring movie for that concept.
Love that. Yeah, and tools, right? So like I created our platform because like if you're working with a coach or even a mentor or peers, use some documentation to facilitate everyone's goals, right? So what I created was a software for career work, right? Instead of just getting on a meeting with your coach and then you hang up and you hope for the best throughout the week, have a space to do the work, right? Visualize, like, you know, there's visualization, but there's also just documentation, progressing, whether you're doing learning, research, networking, reflecting, whatever you're doing, documenting it in an organized space to facilitate whatever the next steps are going to come. If you document something today, what's going to happen tomorrow? You're going to take it one step further, right? So these are, of course, our 2 apps that we've created. And, you know, Lucie, correct me if I'm wrong, Templa, it's very holistic, right? In the sense that you can visualize any goals. Of course, you know, my work is a little bit career focused, which, you know, oftentimes has other, you know, arms and legs that relate to your personal life, of course. But these are just 2 of the many tools to utilize, visual tools to help you progress forward.
Yeah, and so the company that I've because this is my heart and soul, I've been journaling for 20 years of my life, every day. So all throughout my travels, like I wanted to record where I was, but then as I grew kind of spiritually and my life progressed, I really wanted to write that down. So I've integrated that into the app that I've created called Templa, so that you can keep track of your progress and also just keep aligned visually to the goal that you're wanting to work on and manifest.
Awesome.
Wow, so I think we learned a lot, and also the girls addressed many, I think all of the questions we received before, so that was great. Maybe I have one last question that we received, and I think to end on a happy note. So what is, the question is, how can you fight negative thoughts that make you want to quit on what you already have visualized?
So the negative thoughts are going to come up all the time, and I think that's just part of the human condition. And so another thing, sorry to sound like a broken record, but journal on them as well. Name the negative thoughts. If there's a particular thought that's looping, understand what its purpose is there for. I really truly believe that even our shadow side is actually just trying to teach us something. It actually might need us to listen to it. And so by getting friendly and more interactive with that thought pattern, it's like, I'm not good enough, or I shouldn't be doing this, or you could actually start a line of questioning through your journal practice. Say like, why don't I think I'm good enough? And you can go through that and you can get underneath the real main cause of it to dispel it. It's like if there was a little child in the room that was acting up, and that's represents your thoughts, you wouldn't want to like like you wouldn't want to be nasty to that child. You'd want to like understand it, get on its level and understand what's going on. And so treat these negative thoughts like the little wounded child. And I said before, like I'm a big fan of inner child work. And really, like if we understand like when these self-limiting beliefs were activated within us, it's usually within our childhood. So remember that these negative thought patterns, as nasty as they might be, they're just like a remnants of our childhood or something that has unconsciously been programmed in us, and it's not there to hurt us personally. It's just there to give us a message. And so if we try and get on its level and journal on it and just understand a bit more why where it's coming from, its origin, and hopefully we can like dispel that. But it's also a work in progress. Like we may feel we'll get to different layers, like as you grow you might experience like imposter syndrome or other layers of these negative emotions. But I think it's just like understanding how we can just make friends with them rather than try and push them out, if that helps.
I think that's huge. I also think a few things, like visualization goes hand in hand with coaching, therapy, meeting with peers, like talking it out is another version of what we're saying. Like staying in your head is probably, what we don't want to do. Getting it out on paper, getting it out somewhere out loud is huge, especially when this person across from you can give you some perspective or understanding or help you understand. Sometimes when people have limiting beliefs around careers, I'll just give them like a new perspective on how to frame that same exact thing that they never thought of. So, if you're working on careers or if you're working on really any goal, utilizing conversation to get out of your head and see it a different way. But I love what you're saying as well, like seeing it as an opportunity. I think about like you could run down that line of thinking that like spirals into like, how to get yourself further into the negative spiral, but you also could go a different line of thinking to say, well, what does that even mean? And where did that originally originate? And where did that come from? And maybe all of a sudden you're like, when I was 3, someone taught me this thing, but now maybe I need to redefine that. So understanding where it comes from. I think a huge part of just adulthood is redefining things that subconsciously were defined for us. Maybe this is the inner child work, but like we are influenced in our upbringing, and then we don't even realize that it keeps influencing us or limiting us. So allow yourself to take it to its root. And like, maybe you're nervous to ask for help. You could say, like, journal on, like, is it okay to ask for help? What does it mean to ask for help? Am I allowed? Like, what would that look like? Who would I feel comfortable, when, or what is reasonable? Like, redefine some basic concepts versus, like, sometimes our initial assumption just comes from so deep that, like, we don't even remember where it came from. So allow the line of questioning to understand versus, like, just reinforcing it. Or you may say, I'm in a moment where I don't want to go down that road right now. So just jot it. That's a perfect thing for that journal, where it's like, I'm going to put a pin in that and revisit that during my therapy session on Thursday or whatever it may be. I know we have like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Melissa, let me know if you want to wrap up, but so glad you guys are all here today, and just reach out. Lucie and I are here. Both of our software and services are designed to help you guys progress. So let us know. I always offer a free initial call. So if you are focusing on career efforts, reach out. Would love to chat. Would love to help you. And Lucie, I think we have your website, but just make sure we have what we need to find you as well.
Yeah, I just want to say, just remember you're not alone, and everyone feels these feelings at some shape or form in their life or every day. And so just remember that there's always help, and reach out. And all that we've covered today are just a tiny little sprinkling of what's available. And we just want to, like, really reiterate that like, being humans an adventure. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, and finding your best job that you know that you're worthy of achieving is you're gonna get there. So just remember that there's always helping hand and Power to Fly and Rachel's WOKEN and Templa. Like, there's always people here to help. So you can reach me at www.templa.app, which is a website, but also my name, Lucie Dawson, at templa.app as well, if you want to reach out. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thank you, girls. It was a wonderful conversation. I think it was inspiring. Everyone keeps commenting on the chat that they had a great time. So thank you for sharing the tools and everything you told us. And also, let me thank everyone that joined us via YouTube or via Power to Fly's website. So hope to see you soon, and have a wonderful day.